Hello children, welcome to online classes. Today we are going to discuss one of the most important topics in first year chemistry, that is chemical and ionic equilibrium. Let us start with the definition meaning of rate of reaction. Rate of reaction is change in the molar concentration of one of the reactants or products per unit time. So change in the concentration of one of the products or reactants per unit time is called rate of reaction. It is represented as plus or minus dc by dt. Plus or minus dc by dt. The concentration increases with respect to products and the concentration decreases with respect to reactants, and therefore we are using plus or minus. So the concentration is decreasing with respect to reactants and the concentration is increasing with respect to products, and therefore we are using plus or minus sign. For a reaction A plus 2B giving rise to 3C plus 4D, the rate of reaction is given as rate is equal to minus dA by dt is also equal to 1 by 2 of dB by dt, also equal to 1/3 of dC by dt, also equal to 1/4 of dB by dt we have. Here with respect to reactants negative sign is assigned. With respect to reactants A and then B, we are assigning a negative sign here, and with respect to products a positive sign is given, the plus and then plus sign here now. So rate with respect to reactants is given with respect to reactant assigned a negative sign. With respect to products it is assigned a positive sign here. Now the factors influencing the rate of reaction. Factors influencing the rate of reaction. It depends upon the nature of reactants. So nature of reactants, in general ionic reactions are fast and instantaneous while covalent reactions are slow. Depends upon the temperature. The rate of reaction will be increasing with the increase in the temperature. We'll see details afterwards. The concentration of reactants, the rate of reaction increases with the increase in concentration except that of zero order reactions. A catalyst, always you are using a positive catalyst here. Positive catalyst increases the rate of reaction, means adding a catalyst always the rate of reaction will be increased. Let us take one by one nature of reactants now. Nature of reactants means we need to see the nature of bond that is present between the reactant molecules now. So for example, when you take aqueous solutions of ionic compounds, they contain free ions in them. So during their reaction, just rearrangement of ions takes place. Hence reactions are very fast in the case of ionic reactions. Let us take an example. If you take AgNO3, say you are using aqueous solution here. AgNO3 aqueous solution, combining with NaCl ionic compound, using again here aqueous solution, it forms a precipitation of AgCl plus byproduct is NaNO3, again aqueous solution we have. So as soon as you mix these two components, immediately we are going to get a precipitation of AgCl, means the reaction is very fast. Reaction is very fast in the case of the ionic compounds. Now, in the case of covalent molecules, during the reaction, bonds have to break and new bonds have to form. This takes place some time. Therefore, covalent reactions are slow. So, during the reaction, the bonds are breaking and bonds are forming. In the case of covalent reactions, therefore, the reaction is slow. So, for example, when you take reaction between, say, H2 and then Br2, giving rise to HBr, the reaction is slow because at the time of reaction, H2 breaks down into H, two hydrogen atoms, and Br2 breaks down into two bromine atoms. Then the two atoms have to combine to form HBr. This takes certain time, and therefore reactions are slow. So in general, covalent reactions are slow and ionic reactions are fast. When it comes to temperature here, to know the effect of temperature, effect of temperature on the rate of reaction, energetics of reaction must be properly understood. Energetics of reaction must be properly understood. That is, reaction can be considered as two parts: bond breaking, that is endothermic in nature, and bond forming, that is exothermic in nature. Therefore, when temperature is increased, energy increases, and hence breaking of bonds becomes very much easier now. Hence the reaction will be very fast. So when you're increasing the energy, the reactant bonds will break very much easily, and hence the formation of the products also becomes easily, and therefore rate of reaction will be increasing. So higher the temperature, you can say higher the rate of reaction. Then law of mass action. It states that at a constant temperature, the rate of a chemical reaction is directly proportional to the product of active masses of reactants. It states that at a constant temperature, the rate of chemical reaction is directly proportional to product of active masses of reacting substances. Now, when you use the word active mass, so active mass is molar concentration in the case of aqueous solutions and expressed in moles per liter, or partial pressures in the case of gaseous components and expressed in terms of Newton per meter square, or you can take even in terms of atmospheres. So active mass means molar concentrations. If you take aqueous solutions, it will be partial pressure if you take the gaseous components. That is the meaning of active mass. Now, for a reaction 2A plus 3B giving rise to C plus D, the rate of reaction is given as, according to law of mass action, rate can be given as K into A square plus B cube you have. Means these two are the coefficients here, where K is the rate constant or a specific rate of reaction. Now here, specific rate can be defined as, so let us take rate is given as rate constant into it is A square into B cube you have. Suppose if you take A is equal to B is equal to 1, then rate becomes equal to K itself now. So therefore, rate constant K is defined as rate of reaction when the concentrations of reactants are taken as unity. Means when you take concentration of A is equal to B and that is equal to unity, then the rate becomes equal to rate constant. Therefore, rate constant can be defined as rate of reaction when the concentration of reactants is taken as unity. And units of K depends upon the nature of reaction. Units of K depends on the nature of reaction. The rate equation gives the relation between the rate of reaction and the molar concentration of reacting substances. Rate equation, or you can call it as rate law, that gives the relation between the rate of reaction and the molar concentration of reacting substances. Means, for example, when you take a reaction like A plus B giving rise to some products P here now. So, rate is equal to rate constant K into concentration of A into concentration of B. This relation is called rate equation, also called rate law, which gives the relation between the rate of reaction and the concentration of reacting substances now. Reacting substances. The rate of reaction decreases continuously with respect to time. The rate is depending upon the concentrations, and the concentration in turn, these two depend upon the time, because concentration of reactants decrease continuously with respect to time, and thereby rate of reaction also decreases. So rate is depending upon concentration and concentration depending upon the time. So as time runs, concentration of reactants are decreasing, and thereby rate of reaction also decreases with respect to time. So rate is not a constant, rate always decreases with respect to time. Then comes the chemical equilibrium. For this we want to know meaning of a reversible reaction first. A reaction which proceeds in both the directions is called a reversible reaction. Both the directions means here reactants have to convert into products, and then products must convert into reactants also. Reactants have to convert into products, and products must convert into reactants. Such type of reaction can be called as a reversible reaction. And coming towards chemical equilibrium. Chemical equilibrium is a state of a reversible reaction at which the rate of forward reaction becomes equal to rate of backward reaction at a constant temperature. So chemical equilibrium can be defined as a state of a reversible reaction at which rate of forward reaction becomes equal to rate of backward reaction at a constant temperature. That can be called as chemical equilibrium. Then comes type of equilibria. We have different types of equilibrium. The first one is called physical equilibrium. In physical equilibria, the equilibrium exists between the physical states of the components, that is, in which the opposing processes involve the physical changes only. They involve only the physical changes there now. So, for example, solid to liquid we have means something like ice to water. Here, the rate of melting of ice must be equal to rate of freezing of water. When both the rates are equal, we can say it's a physical equilibrium between the solid and the liquid we have. Then comes gas to liquid we have, water and steam we can take. Here the rate of evaporation of water must be equal to rate of condensation of steam. Then we can say both of them are in equilibrium. That is also said to be in physical equilibrium because only we can see the change in the physical state, that is the liquid is changing into gaseous state. Again gas also becomes there to liquid state now. When it comes to the case of solubility, so solubility, that is solids dissolving in say liquids now. So sugar dissolved in say water. So when you take here a beaker containing water, beaker having water in this, and when you dissolve say sugar, preparing a saturated solution here, we can see some solute particles also present here now. Now in this case, sugar dissolved in water here. So the rate of dissolution of sugar, how much amount of sugar dissolves per unit time, if it is equal to rate of precipitation of sugar, means precipitation of sugar here, then we can say it is nothing but physical equilibrium also now. So it can be, physical equilibrium can be between dissolved solute and solute in the solution there now. Dissolved solute will be in solution, undissolved will be in the form of precipitation. There is precipitation there now. Between these two also we have an equilibrium existing. It is also called physical equilibrium. Then coming towards another dissolution we have, that's the same gas and solution there now. Now here rate of dissolution of oxygen gas should be equal to rate of liberation of oxygen gas from the solution or from the liquid. That can be also taken as physical equilibrium. Rate of dissolution of oxygen gas should be equal to rate of liberation of oxygen gas from solution. It is also in a physical equilibrium. And finally, in the case of sublimation, so for example, when you take say iodine solid here, becoming iodine, say gaseous state here now. In the case of solids which is sublime, here the rate of sublimation of iodine must be equal to rate of formation of iodine from gaseous iodine. So here the rate of sublimation of iodine must be equal to rate of formation of iodine from the gaseous state. That can be taken as physical equilibrium. Taken as physical equilibrium. Then comes meaning of triple point. The temperature and pressure at which all three physical states of a substance can exist together in equilibrium. The temperature and the pressure at which all three physical states should be at equilibrium. That is said to be a triple point. Now when you take water, ice and water vapor, three exist at 0.0098 degrees Celsius and 4.58 atmosphere pressure. So this temperature and pressure itself is called triple point. So temperature and pressure at which all three physical states exist in equilibrium is called a triple point. Then comes chemical equilibrium. So till now we have seen physical equilibrium. Now comes the chemical equilibrium. So chemical equilibrium is a state in a reversible reaction at which rate of forward reaction becomes equal to rate of backward reaction. So rate of forward must become equal to rate of backward reaction. At that state itself is called chemical equilibrium. In chemical equilibrium, in the equilibrium state, the concentration of reactants and products do not change with respect to time. So as time runs, the concentration of reactants and products do not change, they always remain constant. Chemical equilibrium is also dynamic in nature. It's a dynamic in nature, as well as the concentration of reactants and products do not change with respect to time. And then comes, now it can be attained from either direction. Can be attained from either direction means, so for example, when you take we can attain equilibrium between H2, I2 and HI, say by starting with H2 and then I2. Or even we can attain equilibrium by starting with HI to H2 and I2. So in either direction we can attain the equilibrium, means we can attain equilibrium from the reactants or even from the products also we can attain equilibrium state now. Attainment of equilibrium is independent of the catalyst now. Whether we use a catalyst or we do not use a catalyst, we can attain equilibrium. But only thing is we are using catalyst, we can attain equilibrium fastly. There is only the presence of catalyst. Otherwise, we can attain equilibrium even without using catalyst also. If one or else all of the components of equilibrium is a gaseous state, then it is attained only in the closed vessel. So one or else all of them it can be. Suppose take a reaction between calcium carbonate, say in equilibrium with calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide here. When you take this equilibrium reaction, say in open vessel, the carbon dioxide gas escapes and thereby backward reaction cannot take place because one of the products is not there. In such a case, we cannot attain equilibrium because one of the components is escaping into atmosphere. So, if one of the components or more components of an equilibrium system or say gaseous state, we cannot attain equilibrium in open vessel. We can attain equilibrium only in the closed vessels because one of the components escapes off. And finally, at equilibrium, delta G value remains 0. At equilibrium, delta G value remains 0. These are the important properties of equilibrium. Then comes equilibrium constant. Let us take a reaction like AA plus BB giving rise to CC plus DD. In this case, let us take rate of forward reaction. Say rate of forward reaction is equal to, so forward reaction rate constant into concentration of A to the power of A into concentration of B power B. This can be obtained from law of mass action. Similarly, rate of backward reaction is equal to backward reaction rate constant into C to the power of C we have and concentration of D to the power of D we have. Now when you take at equilibrium, both the rates will be equal at equilibrium state. So at equilibrium, both forward and backward rates are equal. So equating, so Kf into concentration of A to the power of A into concentration of B to the power of B, which is equal to Kb backward reaction rate constant into concentration of C to the power of C into that of D to the power of D we have. Now when you divide say Kf by Kb, both are constants. We are going to get some other constant. Let us take it as say Kc, which is called equilibrium constant, which becomes equal to C to the power of C here and then D to the power of D we have by concentration of A to the power of A and that of B to the power of B we have. So this can be called as equilibrium constant Kc. So it can be defined as a ratio of forward reaction rate constant to backward reaction rate constant. That can be defined as equilibrium constant. So equilibrium constant in terms of concentrations will be C power C into D power D by A power A into B power B. We have now ratio of forward reaction rate constant to, that is, it is defined as ratio of rate constants of the forward reaction rate constant to backward reaction rate constant, that is Kf by Kb itself is called equilibrium constant. Suppose if you have a gaseous equilibrium, gaseous state, then the equilibrium constant is expressed in terms of partial pressures. In terms of the partial pressures, where the terms concentrations are replaced by partial pressures. So it is partial pressure of C to the power of C, pressure of D power D by partial pressure of A to the power of A and pressure of B to the power of B we have. And the Kp and Kc related as Kp is equal to Kc into RT to the power of delta N. This delta N G gives rise to number of moles of gaseous products, minus number of moles of gaseous reactants we have. So difference between the number of moles of gaseous products and the number of moles of gaseous reactants we have. Now here in the relation, we can understand mathematically, if delta N is greater than 0, then we can say that Kp is more than Kc. Delta N less than 0, we can say that Kp is less than Kc. And if at all delta n is equal to 0, then Kp must be equal to Kc. This can be understood mathematically from the reaction Kp is equal to Kc into RT power delta n. So delta n is equal to number of moles of gaseous products minus number of moles of gaseous reactants we have. So therefore units of Kp will be equal to C to the power of, so C to the power of m d to the power of n by A power P B power Q. All this m, n, q and p are nothing but stoichiometric coefficients in a balanced equation we have. So delta n will be equal to, that is a n plus m plus n we have, minus it is equal to p plus q, means number of moles of products, gaseous products, minus number of moles of reactants we have, that can be taken as delta n. Now if at all delta n is equal to 0, suppose if delta n value is equal to 0, then the Kp value becomes equal to Kc. Numerically both the values are same. Suppose delta n is not equal to 0, then the value of equilibrium constants will depend on the unit in which the concentrations are expressed. So if delta n is equal to 0, Kp and Kc have same numerical values. If delta n is not equal to 0, the value of equilibrium constant depends on the unit in which the concentrations are expressed. Regarding equilibrium constant we have equilibrium constant, some more points related to equilibrium constant. Equilibrium constant depends upon the temperature of the reaction and is given by log of K2 by K1 is equal to delta H by 2.303 R into 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2. Here K1 is equilibrium constant at temperature T1 and K2 is a equilibrium constant at a temperature T2 we have. So K1 at T1 temperature, K2 at T2 temperature we have. And here suppose if delta H is equal to, say, delta H is equal to positive, means in the case of endothermic reaction, and if at all T2 is, say, more than T1, then you can observe that the value of K2 will be also more than the value of K2 then now. For an endothermic reaction, if at all T2 is more than T1, then K2 becomes more than K1. K2 becomes more than K1 we have. And for an exothermic reaction, it is going to be opposite, means delta H is equal to negative, and if at all T2 is more than T1, then automatically what happens is K2 will be less than K1 we have. So remember, for an endothermic reaction, delta H is positive. At a higher temperature, you are going to get higher equilibrium constant. And independent of, it means equilibrium constant is independent of catalyst. Independent of catalyst because a catalyst speeds both forward as well as backward reactions to equal extent. Hence the ratio of K1 by K2 remains constant. So ratio remains constant because a catalyst speeds up both forward as well as backward reactions. Equilibrium constant is also independent of the concentration of reactants and products. Independent of concentrations because we are defining equilibrium constant. We are defining where the ratios K1 by K2 is also independent of the reactants as well as products, because the reaction rate constants are defined per unit concentrations of reactants. Equilibrium reaction rate constant is defined per unit concentration of the reactants, and thereby the value of is going to be independent of the reactants and products. Then comes for a given system, for equilibrium system, the numerical value of K depends on. Numerical value of K for a given system depends upon stoichiometry of a reaction. Stoichiometry of a reaction means, say, for example, when you take reaction like A giving rise to B, suppose the value of K is equal to concentration of A divided by B here. Say for a reaction A giving rise to B here, equilibrium constant is given by concentration of B by concentration of A. Now, when you are multiplying, say, by 2, say 2A giving rise to 2B, then for this reaction, say K dash will be equal to, it is going to be B square by A square then. Means if you are multiplying throughout by 2, the value of the new equilibrium constant becomes square of the previous one. So means K dash became equal to k square we have, multiplying throughout by 2. If I are dividing throughout by 2 means if I take say half of A giving rise to say half of B, then the new value of say k dash will be equal to square root of k we have. So dividing throughout by 2, we get root, we're going to get root of the previous k value. Multiplying throughout by 2, it will be squared. Dividing by 2, it is going to be root over that. So depends upon the stoichiometry of reaction also. Depends upon how you represent the reaction. Suppose if you take reaction like A to B, then equilibrium constant K is equal to concentration of B by A we have. If you represent the reverse way, means if I write it as say B giving rise to A, then K dash will be equal to concentration of A by concentration of B we have. So if we reverse the reaction, then equilibrium constant will become inverse of that. So now the new K dash became equal to 1 by K. So if we reverse the reaction, then equilibrium constant will become inverse of the previous one now. This is how equilibrium numerical value depends on. One more point, the importance of numerical value of K. Higher value of K indicates reaction almost all goes to completion. Say for example, value is very high, something like 10 to the power of 3, very higher value, it says that reaction almost all goes to completion. We have 10 to the power of 3 times the products we have, means reaction almost all goes to forward direction. The value of very much lesser value of K indicates, suppose the value is 10 to the power of minus 3, very much lesser value, it says reaction hardly proceeds. So the numerical value also gives the nature of reaction for us. Higher value says reaction almost all goes to completion. Very much lesser value says reaction hardly proceeds now. Now importance of reaction quotient. Reaction quotient formula and equilibrium constant formula remain same. Now importance of reaction quotient. If reaction quotient is less than K, then you can say equilibrium moves in forward direction. If reaction quotient is more than K, it moves in backward direction, and is equal to K means system is already at equilibrium state. So equilibrium reaction quotient, if it is less than K, equilibrium moves in forward direction, more than K moves in backward direction, less than K system is at equilibrium. Then comes the factors affecting the equilibrium. Affecting equilibrium, we can say position of equilibrium also there. So factors affecting the position, it depends upon the change in the concentration of reactants and products. When you change the concentration of reactants or products, then the position of equilibrium is going to be affected. How it gets affected, we are going to see after discussing Le-Chatelier's principle now. It also depends upon temperature and depends upon the presence of inert gas at a constant temperature, at constant pressure we have. So the position of equilibrium depends upon change in the concentration of reactants and that of products, depends on temperature, depends on addition of inert gas at a constant pressure, and it's going to be independent of, means this will not affect the position of equilibrium. That is presence of catalyst and addition of inert gas at a constant volume. These two are not going to affect the position of equilibrium. So three factors, means the change in concentration, change in the concentration of reactants, product, and pressure, temperature, addition of inert gas at constant pressure. These will affect the position of equilibrium, and catalyst and addition of inert gas at constant volume, these will not affect the position of equilibrium. Then Le-Chatelier's principle. It says that if a system at equilibrium is subjected to change of concentration or pressure or temperature, then equilibrium shifts in a direction to minimize the effect of change. It states that at an equilibrium, if an equilibrium is subjected to change of concentration, of pressure or temperature, then equilibrium shifts in a direction to minimize the effect of the change. So from Le-Chatelier's principle, it follows that increase in temperature favors endothermic reaction. So endothermic reaction always requires energy. So thereby increase in temperature favors the endothermic reaction. Increase in the pressure favors the reaction which takes place with a reduction in the number of moles. Reduction in the number of moles here. Means for example, when you take a reaction like say A giving rise to 2B, in this case, if you are increasing the pressure, the reaction moves in backward direction, because in backward direction we have less number of moles are there. Suppose you have a reaction like 2A giving rise to B here now. Pressure is increased, it moves in forward direction, because in forward direction we have less number of moles. Suppose you have a reaction like A giving rise to B, both of them are gases, so pressure will not have any effect on that. So it says that the increase of pressure favors the reaction which takes place with reduction in the number of moles. So wherever the number of moles are less, reaction moves in that direction by increasing in the pressure. Addition of reactants or else removal of products favors the forward reaction. Addition of reactants, removal of products always favors the forward reaction. When forward reaction is favored, it means that equilibrium shifts to right side and we get more amount of product. So when we say forward reaction is favored, it implies that equilibrium shifts to right side and you are going to get more amount of product. That is the meaning of saying forward reaction is favored. So Le-Chatelet's principle says that if you are increasing the concentration of reactants or decreasing the concentration of the products, it moves in the forward direction. When you increase the temperature, it moves in endothermic reaction, means it favors the endothermic reaction. If the pressure is increased, it moves in a direction where you have less number of moles. Now examples of Le-Chatelet's principle. If you take an example of formation of nitric oxide, the reaction is endothermic in nature, and here delta N is equal to 0. Delta N value is equal to 0 in this case. Delta N 0 means there will not be any effect of pressure, and delta H is equal to plus Q means nothing but endothermic reaction. So therefore, higher the temperature means it moves in the forward direction. So high temperature, reaction moves in the forward direction. Then formation of ammonia is a exothermic reaction, and number of moles are less on the product side now. So higher the pressure, it moves in forward direction, and lower temperature moves in forward direction. So therefore, low temperature favors the formation of ammonia here, and number of moles are less in forward direction. Thereby, high pressure it moves in the forward direction. Then PCl5 formation, reaction is plus Q, means endothermic in nature, and number of moles of reactants are less. So high pressure moves in backward direction. So higher temperature, forward direction, higher pressure, backward direction we have. This is regarding the examples. Then comes chemical equilibrium topic. First of all, hydrolysis, the phenomenon in which a salt reacts with water to give slightly acidic or basic or neutral solution itself is called salt hydrolysis. The phenomenon in which salt reacts with water to give acidic, basic or neutral solution is known as salt hydrolysis. It is a reverse of the neutralization reaction. The neutralization reaction, acid and base react to form salt and water. Here salt and water react, hence can be considered to be a reverse of neutralization reaction. The salt of strong acid and strong base, something like say NaCl, salt of strong acid and strong base will not undergo hydrolysis. Therefore, their salt solutions always remain neutral. Salt of strong acid and strong base, something like NaCl solution, will not undergo hydrolysis, and thereby their solutions always remain neutral. For example, if you take a salt like AB, dissolved in water, first of all undergoes ionization, suppose giving A plus and say B minus now. Suppose if at all A plus is a strong conjugate ion, so A plus reacting with water, HOH, let us take H plus and OH minus. A plus will react with OH minus, it forms AOH and releasing here H plus ions, means the entire solution is going to be acidic in nature. Suppose B minus is strong conjugate ion, so B minus plus water, H plus and OH minus giving rise to, so these two react here, it forms HB, releases OH minus, and thereby it is going to be basic in nature. Suppose both of them react with water, you are going to get H plus as well as OH minus. In turn, these two combine, H plus and OH minus will combine to form water molecule. Then such a solution is going to be neutral. So thereby, the phenomenon in which salt reacts with water to give acidic, basic or neutral solution. So it is forming acidic here, basic here, or it can form even neutral also. The entire phenomenon is called salt hydrolysis. Now different types of hydrolysis we have. So that is hydrolysis of salt of strong acid and weak base. Strong acid and weak base. You can take strong acid means you can take HCl. Weak base you can take something like ammonium hydroxide. So their salt will be ammonium chloride here. Salt of say weak acid and strong base you can take. Weak acid you can take acetic acid here. Weak acid. And then say strong base you can take NaOH here. Corresponding salt will be sodium acetate here. Salt of weak acid and weak base, if you take these two, and it's going to be ammonium acetate salt. These three salts undergo hydrolysis. So salt of strong acid, weak base, salt of weak acid, strong base, salt of weak acid and weak base. These three salts undergo hydrolysis, and salt of strong base and strong acid will not undergo hydrolysis. Let us take one by one. Now let us take hydrolysis of salt of strong acid and then weak base, say ammonium chloride. When you dissolve ammonium chloride in water, first of all it undergoes ionization. It gives rise to NH4 plus. It gives rise to NH4 plus and Cl minus ions here. Ammonium ions react with water and produce ammonium hydroxide plus H plus ions. Therefore, the solution is going to be acidic in nature. Ammonium ions plus water gives rise to ammonium hydroxide plus H plus. So the solution is going to be acidic in nature. Now it is also called cationic hydrolysis because here cation reacts with water, hence called cationic hydrolysis. Now coming towards hydrolysis constant, Kh will be equal to product of ammonium hydroxide into it will be H plus by ammonium ion. We have product of ammonium hydroxide into H plus by NH4 plus ions will give us hydrolysis constant, which is called Kh. Now here hydrolysis constant is an equilibrium constant only for hydrolysis reaction of the salt. And when you say degree of hydrolysis is a number of moles of salt hydrolyzed per mole of salt itself is called degree of hydrolysis. Is represent as a symbol H here. It is called symbol as Kh for us now. So the Kh is the symbol used for the hydrolysis constant. H is a symbol used for the degree of hydrolysis. Let us take a salt of now strong base and then weak acid we have. That is when you dissolve sodium acetate, you are going to get here acetate plus sodium ions now. So here acetate ions react with water and produce OH minus ions. Therefore, the solution is going to be basic in nature. It will be basic in nature because of the OH minus ions. And it is called anionic hydrolysis because anion reacts with water. So it is called anionic hydrolysis. Hydrolysis constant is given by product of these two, acetic acid plus OH minus ions by acetate ions we have, where Kh is called hydrolysis constant. Then comes third salt, salt of weak acid and then weak base we have. When you dissolve, say ammonium acetate salt in water, you are going to get acetate ions plus ammonium ions. Now here in this case, both react with water. Acetate as well as ammonium ions both react with water. And then finally you are going to get here. So acetate ions as well as means if you go back and understand, acetate ions react with water to form acetic acid here now. And then here ammonium ions from ammonium hydroxide here now. So thereby you are going to get in this case acetic acid plus ammonium hydroxide. But nature depends upon the Ka and Kb values. Suppose Ka is more, then it is going to be acidic in nature. If Kb is more, that is going to be basic in nature. Suppose both of them are equal, that is said to be neutral salt. And Kh is given by product of acetate ion concentration into NH4OH concentration by ammonium ions into CH3CO minus ions. It is called hydrolysis constant we have. Now let us take relationship between the hydrolysis constant, degree of hydrolysis and pH of respect to aqueous salt solutions we have. So type of salt, then Kh formula, then degree of hydrolysis, then pH formula of that. When you take salt of say strong acid and then weak base, strong acid and weak base, if you take suppose something like ammonium, say chloride here, ammonium chloride here now. So strong acid and weak base we have. When you have weak base, remember the KH formula, in the denominator we are going to get Kb of that one now. Kb will come. So Kw by Kb we have now. And if you take your weak acid here, so Ka comes. So for example, in this case, you can take the example of sodium acetate. You can take here. It is sodium acetate, salt. Salt of strong base and weak acid. So weak acid, so Ka comes here now. Here both of them are weak. It will be ammonium acetate salt. CH3COO, say NH4. When both are weak, so hydrolysis constant, denominator you are going to get both Ka and then Kb. So for the salt of weak base, so KH contains Kb here in the denominator. Salt of weak acid, Ka comes in denominator. Both are weak, both are coming in the denominator we have now. Then comes the hydrolysis constant, hydrolysis degree of hydrolysis formula. It will be root of Kh by C. The formula remains same in both the cases. But in the case of salt of weak acid and weak base, this is independent of concentration of the salt. So H is independent of concentration of the salt. Simply root of Kh we have. Then comes the pH formula. When you take salt of strong acid, the pH is going to be less than 7. So the formulas will be 7 minus will come. Less than 7. 7 minus pKb by 2 minus half log C. Both are minus and minus signs we have taken common here. If it is salt of strong base, the pH is going to be more than 7. Therefore 7 plus and plus will come in this case. 7 plus pKa by 2 plus half log C we have. When both of them are weak here, it will be 7 plus pKa by 2 minus it will be pKb by 2 we have. That way try to remember the formulas. And when both of them are strong acid and strong base, something like say NaCl salt, the salt never hydrolyzes and therefore formulas will not be there for salt of strong acid and then strong base we have. Then comes Ostwald's dilution law. It states that degree of dissociation of a weak electrolyte is proportional to square root of dilution, is directly proportional to square root of dilution. Let us take a salt or electrolyte like AB giving rise to A plus B minus, C initial concentration 0 and 0. Say at equilibrium C minus C alpha we have. So equilibrium constant K is equal to C alpha square by 1 minus alpha comes. If it is very much weaker electrolyte, 1 minus alpha can be taken as nearly equal to 1. In such a case, K becomes equal to C alpha square then now. K is C alpha square. So therefore, alpha square is equal to K by C. Alpha is equal to square root of K by C we have. And we know that concentration is inversely proportional to volume. Therefore, alpha is equal to square root of K into V it comes. This implies alpha, that is a degree of dissociation, is directly proportional to root of V we have. Square root of the volume itself is called Ostwald's dilution law. By applying this law, so the formula is alpha square C by 1 minus alpha. By applying Ostwald's dilution law for a weaker acid and weaker base, we are going to get formulas H plus is equal to root of KAC. H plus will be equal to C alpha, also equal to square root of K into C will come. Similarly, for a weaker base, OH minus will be equal to C into alpha, or else root of KB into C. Here Ka and Kb are dissociation constants of weaker acid and then weaker base we have. And the value of Ka, Kb is higher means it is going to be a stronger acid. So Ka, Kb are higher values implies that there is going to be a stronger acid. And pKa is given by minus of log Ka and pKb is called minus of log Kb we have. And if at all smaller the value of pKa and pKb, the acid strength and base strength will be higher now. So smaller the value of pKa, stronger the acid. Smaller the value of pKb, stronger the base we have. So higher value of Ka or smaller value of pKa will be stronger acid. As regarding Ka, pKa. Then comes common ion effect. Now it is defined as the decrease in the dissociation of a weak electrolyte in the presence of common ion containing substance is called common ion effect. The decrease in the dissociation of a weaker electrolyte in the presence of a common ion containing substance. For example, when you take, say, dissociation of acetic acid, say weaker electrolyte, acetic acid dissociates, use here CH3COO minus plus H plus we have. Suppose when you take a common ion containing substance, something like say acetic acid, sodium acetate here now, ionizes completely, you are going to get acetate ions plus sodium ions. Now if you see here, is giving acetate ions are there. So here already we have acetate ions now. So sodium acetate increases the concentration of acetate ions here. So when these ions are increasing here, the above equilibrium moves in backward direction. Implies the concentration, implies the dissociation of acetic acid is going to be reduced now in the presence of common ion containing substance. So decrease in the dissociation of weak electrolyte in the presence of common ion containing substance itself is called common ion effect we have. If we take one more example like ammonium hydroxide, say ammonium hydroxide, it is a weaker electrolyte giving rise to, it forms ammonium ions plus OH minus ions. Add common ion containing substance like ammonium chloride giving rise to ammonium ions plus Cl minus ions here. We are again adding common ion containing substance. Thereby this moves in the backward direction. Hence you can see decrease, we can see the decrease in the dissociation of ammonium hydroxide ionization. So we can see decrease in the dissociation of weak electrolyte in the presence of common ion containing substance, which itself is called common ion effect. Then comes the solubility product. Molar is defined as the product of molar concentrations of constituent ions raised to the power equal to its stoichiometric coefficients in the equation representing dissociation of electrolyte at a given temperature in a saturated solution. Product of molar concentrations of constituent ions raised to the power equal to stoichiometric coefficients in the equation representing dissociation of electrolyte at a given temperature itself is called solubility product. Implies, let us take a compound like BaCl2. Let us take saturated one solution giving rise to Ba plus 2, say aqueous solution plus Cl minus here, aqueous solution we have. So here it is representing the dissociation of a weak dissociation of an electrolyte here now. Now the Ksp of BaCl2 is equal to, it is a product of ionic concentrations of Ba plus 2 and Cl minus raised to the power of the respective coefficients now. Means it will be concentration of Ba plus 2 into it will be concentration of Cl minus to the stoichiometric coefficient is 2 we have now. So this itself is called now Ksp of BaCl2, product of molar concentration of constituent ions. Molar concentration of constituent ions raised to the power here equal to stoichiometric coefficients in the equation representing the dissociation of an electrolyte in the presence of electrolyte at a given temperature. Next, product of solubility product principle now. If ionic product exceeds Ksp, then you can see precipitation taking place. So ionic product and Ksp have similar formulas. So Ip comes at a different conditions now. So Ip exceeds Ksp, then we can see formation of precipitates. If ionic product is less than Ksp, no precipitate is being formed. Even equal to also, we cannot see precipitation forming. So condition of precipitation is the ionic product must be always greater than the Ksp value. Then the formula for Ksp. Suppose if you take a salt like AxBy, for a salt like AxBy, giving rise to say x moles of A, say plus y, plus say y moles of say B minus x you have, B minus x. Now Ksp is given by, means Ksp of AxBy. AxBy is given by product of molar concentrations of the ions. So A plus raised to the respective coefficients. Power will be coefficients here. B minus x to the power of y we have. This is said to be Ksp. And if at all S is a solubility, if S is a solubility, then Ksp for any salt in general can be given by x power x, y power y, and s to the power of x plus y we have. If S is a solubility and x and y are respective coefficients, we can say x power x, y power y, s to the power of x plus y. Let us take few examples here. For a salt like AgCl, so S square means Ag plus into Cl minus will come, S square will come. For BaCl2 it will be Ba plus 2 into it will be Cl minus whole square will come. Cl minus square will come and Cl minus square means it will be 4 then now. Because Ba plus 2, 2Cl minus will come. So 4S cube will come. In the case of quaternary salt, something like AlCl3 where ions altogether are 4 in number, it will be 27S to the power of 4 we have. So we can apply the formula. For these things, we can apply the formula x power x, y power y, s to the power of x plus y we have. Then the theories of acids and bases, Bronsted-Lowry theory. So proton donor or protogenic substance is called acid. Proton acceptor or protophilic substance is called a base. Suppose when you take HCl plus water, in this reaction, say it is H3O plus Cl minus now. HCl is giving proton, so this can be called as an acid. Water takes proton from HCl, so water can be called as base in Bronsted-Lowry theory in this reaction. And meaning of conjugate acid-base pair. A pair of acid and base which are differing by a proton itself is called conjugate acid-base pair. Pair of acid and base differing by a proton. It's called conjugate acid-base pair. Suppose when you take a substance and add a proton, you are going to get corresponding acid. Add a proton, you are going to get corresponding acid now. If you remove a proton, you are going to get corresponding base. Let us see in examples now. Say ammonia plus H plus gives ammonium ion for us now. Ammonia base adding a proton, we are going to get ammonium ion, going to be corresponding conjugate acid then now. Water adding a proton, you are going to get hydronium ion. So water and hydronium ion will make corresponding conjugate acid base pair. But in this H3O plus is going to be acid, H2O is going to be base for us. Similarly, H3O plus adding proton, you are going to get corresponding acid we have. So HSO4 minus plus H plus, H2SO4 corresponding acid we have. So if you remove, we are going to get corresponding base. So water minus H plus corresponding base we have. OH minus H plus, you are going to get corresponding the base. So you remove proton, you will get a base. Add a proton, you are going to get corresponding acid. This is a conjugate acid-base pair you have. And then one more important point. In a conjugate acid-base pair, if the acid is stronger, corresponding base is going to be weaker. In a conjugate acid-base pair, if acid is stronger, corresponding base is weaker. And if base is stronger, corresponding acid is weaker. We have in conjugate acid-base pair, one will be strong and then one is going to be weaker and vice versa. This is regarding conjugate. Next, Lewis concept of acids and bases. Here electron pair acceptor is called acid. Electron pair donor is supposed to be a base for us. So when you take a reaction like say NH3 giving electron pair to say BF3 molecule in some reaction. In this reaction now, here BF3 electron pair acceptor is called acid here. Donor is called base in this case. So electron pair donor is base and is called acid now. So therefore, we take examples of Lewis acids here. All neutral molecules with less than octet around central atom, because they are going to accept electron pairs, neutral molecules having less than octet around central atom will be Lewis acids now. We can take all cations with vacant orbitals. Cations having vacant orbitals also accept electron pairs now. So they are also Lewis acids now. And molecules which can expand octet configurations. They may have octet or more than octet, But if they are in position to expand octet further, they also take electron pairs, hence act as a Lewis acids. So molecules which do not have octet, which have vacant orbitals, which can expand octet, will come under Lewis acids. When it comes to base, neutral molecules with one or more lone pair of electrons in central atom. So when you take all amines here, primary, secondary, tertiary, they have a lone pair upon the nitrogen, so they can donate lone pair, hence they are Lewis bases we have. And anions which can donate one or more lone pair also act as a Lewis bases. Suppose when you take a reaction like K4FeCN6, compound like K4FeCN6. In this compound, F is in +2 state now. Cn is in -1 state we have now. Each Cn minus ion donates electron pair to Fe+2 now. So in complete complex here, so Fe+2 is electron pair acceptor. Electron pair acceptor is called Lewis acid now. So this acts a role of Lewis acid. Electron pair donor, each Cn minus is called a base there now. So electron pair donor. So all ligands in a complex will be acting as a Lewis base. And central atom or ion is acting as a Lewis acid now. Regarding Lewis acid base theory we have. Then comes concept of pH. So pH is defined as negative logarithm of hydrogen ion concentration. Similarly, pH is also called negative logarithm of OH minus ion concentration, and pH plus pH is equal to 14. This will be at 25 degrees Celsius. And pH plus pH is equal to pKw here. And then pKa plus pKb is also equal to pKw is equal to 14 for us. This is for a given conjugate acid base pair, pKa plus pKb is equal to 14. Then pH plus pOH, some relations we have. Suppose H plus is given as, say, 10 to the power of -3, then pH will be equal to 3 now. So 10 to the power of -n we have, pH becomes equal to n. So 10 to the power of -3, pH is equal to 3 we have. Suppose somewhere H plus is given as excuse me, say 2 into 10 to the power of -3 then the pH will become equal to 3 minus we have log 2 then 3 minus log 2. So it is x into 10 to the power of -n we have. See the same thing here. It is going to be n minus log x here. n minus log x, like this term, it is 3 minus log 2 we have. Similarly, we can take even for OH minus ion also, the same formula can be applied here now. And H plus will be equal to anti-log of minus pH. Anti-log of minus pH. So H plus is 10 to the power of -3. Therefore, the pH, suppose you have pH is equal to 3. What is the value of H plus? That is going to be anti-log of -3 then now. So if pH is equal to 3, from this H plus will be equal to anti-log of -3. This becomes 10 to the power of -3 then now. Similarly for OH minus ion also. Now ionic product of water. The product of ionic concentrations of H plus and OH minus itself is called ionic product of water. The value is constant only at 25 degrees Celsius. So it depends upon temperature. Higher the temperature, higher the concentration of H plus and OH minus, thereby the product also increases. And if it decreases, we are decreasing the temperature. Depends upon temperature. The product of H plus and OH minus of a water itself is called, or any aqueous solution itself is called ionic product of water. Then comes the buffers, Henderson equation we have. The pH of buffer consisting of a mixture of weaker acid and corresponding salt of strong base. So when you take CH3 COOH plus CH3 CONA, this mixture acts as a buffer. So mixture of weaker acid plus corresponding salt of strong base. Given by the formula pH is equal to pKa plus log of concentration of salt by acid. When you take the basic buffer, which is a mixture of weak base and corresponding salt of strong acid, you can take the example of weak base plus ammonium chloride here. This mixture you can take in this case. So the basic buffer pOH will be given as pKb plus log of concentration of salt by concentration of the base we have. And we know that buffer resists the change in pH by adding a small amount of acid or else base even upon dilution we have. Even the aqueous solution of salt of weak base and weak acid also means, for example, when you take the compound CH3COONH4. Only the solution of this salt itself also acts as a buffer. So buffer will be mixtures like weak acid plus corresponding salt of strong base, weak base plus corresponding salt of strong acid here. Also it can be only aqueous solution of weak base and weak acid also acts as a buffer solution. Then with this we are done with chemical equilibrium and